Top of the morning to you, Los Angeles. Hello to fans of Major League Soccer, lovers of the black and gold, and the millions.
And millions
of Defenders of the Bank listeners. Welcome to a milestone episode, although I can't say it's completely milestone-ish, but in a way it is. It is the 400th episode of Defenders of the Bank. The reality is there's far more than that with the one more sleeps, but we're celebrating 400. And we've got some pretty cool things on this podcast to talk to you all about, in addition to the game recap against St. Louis City SC. My name's Christian Filliman, better known as Philly, and with me, as always, the man who's really been holding down Defenders of the Bank since I've been running around to the Inland Empire as if my life depended on it, because my broadcasting career does. I give you the man, the myth, the Bufanda himself, J.R. Liebert.
It's the scarf. You know my voice. What's happening? 400 episodes, Philly. 400. That's a number that when we were setting up to record after hours at the recreation center that I ran my summer camp out of almost 9 full years ago. Philly, I don't think you and I were thinking about 400. Our friends over at Heart of LAFC with the LAFC podfather himself, Joseph Zacher, Tony, Bam, Araceli, and all the others got to the magical number last year. And I know they've been a real inspiration to us since the beginning. The pod space has grown and contracted and grown and contracted. We're so thankful to call almost all of them friends. Happy foot, sad foot, shoulder to shoulder, everybody up and down the list. It has been an incredible ride, and it means so much for us to be included in this space. Philly, if I could wax poetic for just one moment, if you don't mind. We've always had a unique position, and I feel kind of responsibility to this club. I know Philly feels the same way. We've always wanted to tell this story of the club from all the angles and spaces possible, from inside the stadium at games to the press box, to the interview room, to the magic of Christmas Tree Lane, and everywhere else the black and gold goes. We've always held by the mantra of show up and do good work. And honestly, for me, so much of that goes back to the late Mo Facio and a conversation that I had with him back in 2019 about how he thought that Philly and I truly belonged because of how often we showed up, kept showing up, and doing good work. So every time that I sit in a press conference or in my seat at the games, or especially every time we set up on Christmas Tree Lane tailgates, I do think of Mo. I also obviously think of my family, my mom and dad, who have been so incredibly supportive of this journey along the way to 400. Obviously, I know my dad's watching from a different seat than when we started this. And my mom obviously has been incredible. To Nina for all of her support, to Heidi for hers. It has really taken a village to raise this scarf to the millions. I think Philly's muted right now. I don't know.
I don't know how that happened. And millions.
There we go. To those that stop us on the concourse, or who stop by tailgate, or comment on our videos, or if you've bought a shirt or a scarf, or in any way, shape, or form supported this endeavor of ours, thank you. To those at LAFC, up and down the club, thank you for continuing to believe in us and hold us accountable. To tell the story of this club in our own way, there truly would be no Defenders of the Bank without you. You make this labor of love so much less laborious. But I saved one, of course, for last, for my partner in pod, for the person who I met in Founders Club, and actually before Founders Club at a Walker Zimmerman event, and so many other things that we have done along the way. Philly has said that I have been holding it down for the recent past because of all the stuff that he's got going on. We both have a lot of things going on, but make no mistake about it, there would be no Defenders of the Bank without Philly pushing me for several months to get off of the, hey, I've been thinking about doing this with you, and get on the Defenders of the Bank bus. And it has rolled all the way into 400 episodes because of Philly and all of the hard work that he has put in over 400 episodes, and all the one more sleeps, because I know you count those too, and everything that I have tried to do on my end. But again, Philly, there would be no Defenders without you, my friend. So we don't get to 400 without you. Thank you, my partner in pod.
I mean, I'm speechless. Honestly, I didn't have anything prepared because to me, this is just a regular, ordinary day. But I obviously working with you doing this podcast has been amazing. there are the times where obviously it becomes a little bit of a nightmare in terms of planning things logistically with all our crazy varying schedules. But, you've been there with me doing this from the very beginning, and I've had a lot of podcast and broadcast partners, with the exception of my wife, who I love dearly. There's no other podcast partner or broadcast partner that I have ever had that I've truly enjoyed working with more than you. You come prepared. You're always prepared. Even if you're not prepared, which is never the case, you seem like you're prepared. I've always wanted to go down this journey with one person and one person only in this space. And that, of course, is you, your heart, your passion, your knowledge, your memory of obscure sports facts, something that, I have too, and something I appreciate tremendously. Doing this pod with you has been amazing. And obviously to all the millions out there, we've been there since day one. We'll be there at year 10. We'll be there at day 100. We'll be there when we've usurped the galaxy for the most MLS titles in this league. We will be around. We are not a trend. We are not a come today, gone tomorrow kind of a podcast. We are the way we are, unashamedly so, and that's how we're always going to be. And we've all grown older together. I've gotten grayer with all of you in the last 9 seasons. And we certainly appreciate each and every one of you, this club, this community, everything about that. And honestly, what better way to segue into, the rest of the episode? We had on our show a good friend of the pod, and honestly, just a good friend in general, period. We had, unless Scarf, you had something else you wanted to say before?
No, you're doing a wonderful job.
Okay, just making sure. You gave me a look, and I wasn't quite sure. If you're like, hold on, I want to say something. We were fortunate enough to bring on our good friend, co-president of LAFC, Larry Freedman, to wax poetic with us, to steal a line from you. Regards to the club, how he's seen the vision unfold. There's some potential breaking fun stuff to hear, so we're going to kick it to that interview as we sat down about an hour ago with the legend himself, Larry Killer Freedman, Larry the Legend, a high school goalkeeper extraordinaire. Let's go right to that interview.
Here we go. And here we are, through the magic of editing, the interview that we just teased on episode 400 here of Defenders of the Bank. We are extremely excited and honored to bring to the show friend of the pod, and honestly, we get to say this now, friend of one Philly and Scarf, LAFC Co-President Larry Freedman. Larry, welcome back to Defenders of the Bank.
Great to be here, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and look, it was a great night last night. We're all coming off the high. Look, I know this wasn't on the initial list of questions we sent you, but we got to throw it out there. Since we're coming off a 2-0 win against St. Louis, 4-0-0, no goals allowed on the season, can you just give us your thoughts on an historic start to this 2026 MLS regular season?
It has been spectacular, and Hugo Lloris has just been a revelation, and I can't help but be extra excited about it, both as a former all-conference goalkeeper in high school. So I have as you guys know, I have a particular affection for the keepers, and as a guy who's a little bit older than the rest of you, there's just something really special. It was the same when Giorgio was here, and he was still holding it down in the back and, hitting laser passes on a dime upfield. You just have this old guy's rule thing that goes on in your mind. And again, last night, the score is a bit misleading because there were moments where St. Louis clearly had the better of the run of play, and Hugo bailed us out a number of times. So it's really exciting. I'm just surprised that, during the Tyler Miller era, we didn't start the same. It's kind of shocking.
Yeah, you never know. With Tyler, there were some moments, right? Some walkabout moments on occasion.
Yeah.
We haven't seen as many of those from Hugo, that's for sure.
No.
And I think Max said it best himself, that Hugo tapped into the fountain of youth at the age of 39. We need to go hit him up for some of that liquid so we too can tap into the youth.
Truly incredible.
I think that's what Philly's drinking right now in between questions.
It's called green tea. So yes, it's antioxidants and good stuff for the body.
Here's to you.
Cheers.
Philly,
When you signed on about a dozen years ago, it's so much time has transpired. Honestly, it's crazy. Like, I'm sure you had the
Yeah.
expectations and dreams for LAFC, but here we are, beginning season 9. How has LAFC lived up to those expectations that you had?
So I am not alone in these feelings. I think we all had an idea of what we wanted this to be, what we hoped it would be, but I don't think anybody who was here at the time, anybody who was in the ownership group at the time, would disagree with the statement that the reality has outstripped even the craziest of dreams. You know, you start the thing and you hope that you can bring in a coach that can help and a GM who can build a roster that'll compete and play an exciting brand of the beautiful game, and the people will show up and the building will be great. And, you know, our plan was always, because it's private money that built the stadium and 17 regular season MLS games, a business model does not make. You know, we hoped that the concert business and the other event business and, you know, film shoots and commercial shoots and television shoots, all these things would happen. And I don't think in anybody's wildest dreams we thought that the building would turn out as beautifully as it did, that the team would have accomplished all that it has accomplished in, you know, less than a decade on the pitch, and that there would be all of these different pieces of hardware in the trophy case, that we would have competed in a Club World Cup and on a Monday afternoon in Atlanta, Georgia at Mercedes-Benz Stadium would have given a club like Chelsea, who went on to win the tournament, by the way, 3-0 against PSG, 2-0 against us. You know, we gave them a run. We could have had a couple.
yeah.
So I will quote my friend and partner, co-founder of Riot Games, Mark Merrill, when we cut the ribbon and he first walked into the director's box and looked out at the finished product. You have to fucking be kidding me. Sorry, you might have to bleep that one.
No way.
You know,
I swore the other day.
Yeah, long-winded answer to a pretty simple question, but it's, you know, and even the supporters, right? The 3252, you know, original team president, co-founder of the whole thing, Tom Penn, who's now down in San Diego. Tom lived in Portland and, you know, was very familiar with the Timbers Army and thought, all right, you know, if we can get 500 people doing the thing in year 1, and then maybe we get to 1,500 in year 2, and by year 3, maybe the North End is full. And we were all there, you know, on night 1, drum hit, Dolly Dolly, Black and Gold, and, you know, it was on from second 1, and it wasn't 500 people, it was 3,000 plus. It's just been spectacular.
And I mean, the success you talk about, obviously we're here about LAFC, but you talk about the concerts. I was this close to wearing a certain Iron Maiden t-shirt, and now you're going to be welcoming Iron Maiden back for the second time. That's pretty darn cool. With Anthrax and Megadeth, by the way.
Well, and by the way, you know, since I mentioned it before, I'll mention it again, you know, being a little bit older than the rest. I was in college when, you know, Run to the Hills was a radio song, man. And these guys are still drawing tens of thousands of people all over the planet. And if you were at that show or you've seen them somewhere else, this is not just a bunch of dudes who get up and, you know, strum a guitar and sing. Like, it is a full-on Class A production at the utmost level of performance. It's spectacular.
Yeah, Larry, what I told Philly is I wasn't an Iron Maiden guy. I didn't know about the whole thing until that concert. And that blew my mind, the show that they put on at what, 70 plus, all those guys are. I mean, absolutely crazy. Unreal.
Crazy.
Yeah, with Bruce even flying a jumbo jet. But this isn't an Iron Maiden podcast.
Okay, back to LAFC.
All right, so we're celebrating 400 episodes. In reality, a bit more with the One More Sleeps. But 400 episodes while LAFC is celebrating its 9th year on the pitch. We know about the big moments. I'm wearing a T-shirt from one of them, the 2022 MLS Cup, couple of Supporter Shield, an Open Cup win. But you've been closer to the club since the beginning than almost any single person. What is one great memory or moment that you think about often that LAFC fans and supporters might not think about?
So with the highly successful season opener that was hosted by our friends, our partners, our sub landlords over at the Coliseum, I have been thinking a lot lately about how that all came about. And there was a moment that is not unusual in all transactions or deals where, for a variety of reasons, we almost didn't end up taking over the old Sports Arena site. There was a tense moment where we walked out of a room and we were feeling like, this isn't going to happen. This has been a total waste of time. And what are we going to do now? And we went back to what was then the LAFC offices, which were hosted by our executive chairman, Peter Guber, at his Mandalay Entertainment offices, wandered down the hall to his office to tell him how frustrated we were. And Peter did what Peter does best. He said, all right, put all the emotion and the anger off to the side. Let's look at what is on the table. This parcel at this rental rate. Tell me where else you're going to get that in and around downtown Los Angeles, because if it's available somewhere else, go get it. But if it isn't, this is the right idea. And part of what came in the ensuing discussions with our partners at USC was, how can we work with you to put events on a limited basis in your building? And we've done that in the past with the Mexican national team, played Croatia. We've done some other international soccer over there. And we've always thought about, could we take a game there? When the Galaxy took a game to the Rose Bowl, we thought about, do we go to the Coliseum? Do we go to SoFi? And that never came together. And, our friends at the Galaxy wanted to do the Rose Bowl again. So we did the Rose Bowl again. And, sort of a full circle moment where we finally had that right opportunity. And I'm telling you guys, I walked in there at, like 4 p.m. and looked around and was like, oh my God, this is so big. This is so big and it's so empty right now. I'm just crossing my fingers, saying prayers and hoping. And it was spectacular. So the short answer to the question is, I've been thinking a lot lately about, oh my God, like we almost didn't end up doing the deal we did for the location we got. And it probably would have been a very, very different discussion that we're having today had we gone, to Tustin or Long Beach or Thousand Oaks.
Well, it's incredible to think of any other place as being the cathedral of the black and gold, the way that BMO Stadium is. I mean, Christmas Tree Lane, everything about that place is just so iconic, and we're just 9 years in. Speaking of iconic, you mentioned one of these players already. We've now seen 2 iconic former LAFC players join the ownership group, and Giorgio Chiellini, and of course, recently announced Carlos Vela. Can you speak to how the opportunity for each of them to join the ownership group came about? And do you see this as kind of a a way of the future, maybe at LAFC or in MLS in general?
So the first thing I will say is that I always talk about the size of our group and some of the people in the group like Will or Magic, Mia, Nomar, Giorgio, now Carlos. This is not a gimmick, right? These are people who are genuinely committed to the club, what the club stands for, what the club is about, how the club shows up, and are part of the group not as show ponies or a name that we can drop in conversation. And the unfortunate reality is you can see this where there are gimmicks at sports teams throughout all kinds of sports. And so, you know, with Giorgio has so much to add as a human, one of the most wonderful humans you will ever meet. And, you know, is an extremely bright guy who also, you know, he wanted to learn from us because he knew he would be going back to his original club, Juventus, and taking on the role that he has now. So this is a guy who went to school with us and really put in a lot of work, getting to know what everybody does, not only on the soccer side of the house, but on the commercial side of the house, and is the kind of guy who put aside the fact that he doesn't live here currently, but he will turn up anywhere, anytime to do anything we ask him. And you can't ask for a better partner than that. And so, you know, when that conversation started, because, you know, he came here and, you know, made a commitment to his family that they would come live in the US, he would finish his career, and in 2 years they would go home. By the end of it, he wasn't sure that he wanted to leave, but that was the deal he made with his family. So he went back, but he very clearly wanted and articulated that he did not want to leave the club behind and have it be a part of his past. He wanted it to be a part of his future, a part of his life, and he wanted to be an active participant in taking the club to the next level and the next level. And, you know, so it was a relatively easy conversation with our co-managing owners, Larry, Bennett, Brandon, to figure out how we do that. And then with Carlos is, you know, there are people inside our organization and in our community who use the word legend far too loosely, right? He's a legend, she's a legend, everybody's a legend. And, you know, if you really take a critical eye and look at it, Carlos Vela is a legend. I mean, what he did for this club by, you know, he tells the story about being on the airplane, coming over, you know, for the original announcement that he's joining LAFC. And he says, you know, there were moments on that flight where he's thinking to himself, I must be crazy. Like, I don't know. Is anybody going to be there when I show up? Is there any there? Right. And, you know, so not only, and we talked about this last night at the press event that you gentlemen were kind enough to attend, you know, what he did for this club goes far beyond the amazing numbers, stats, and accomplishments that were put up on the pitch. So, you know, again, when that conversation starts and, you know, people are talking about how does Carlos Vela transition from superstar captain to meaningful participant in the club, for the club, on a go forward basis. Again, you know, it's a relatively easy conversation. And as was mentioned yesterday afternoon by Bennett Rosenthal, our lead managing owner, at the press event. When we did the Carlos Vela night and put him on the Ring of Honor and put that number 10 up with the banners for championships and shields, that night was so special, meant so much to everybody inside the club, Carlos and his family, and to the fans. I mean, the pop that this guy gets to this day is just spectacular. So I think, is it a model that others can follow? I would say yes. If you do it for the right reasons and you deploy the individuals in the right way. And look, you guys go to a lot of events. It's great when you show up on the sunset deck for some hors d'oeuvres and cocktails, and that's kind of it. But it's a whole other thing when you have a Q&A with Max Bretos and Carlos Vela.
Yeah.
Right? So I would encourage others to do things like this, and whether it's Carlos Giorgio or it's people like Magic Johnson or Will Ferrell or Mia or Nomar, but there has to be commitment on both sides of the equation, where like, this is going to be a real thing. This isn't a gimmick where there's not real involvement, real participation, real passion for it.
Based on that press conference that we were so kindly invited to, perhaps the next event could be Carlos Vela hosting a stand-up comedy hour, because he now fancies himself as funnier than Will Ferrell. Apparently,
he is a funny dude. And for the benefit of the audience, last night, one of the comments he made when he was at the microphone was that the real reason he was invited to the ownership group was because Will Ferrell just isn't that funny anymore, and Carlos needed to come in and pick up the slack, which, like, that was, also overused is the expression LOL. That was legit LOL.
Total comedy. We've mentioned a couple of club icons tied to some very big clubs, and well, LAFC's tied to some pretty big clubs too.
Yes.
One of the biggest developments in recent years was the partnership with a certain Bundesliga giant that both you and I have displayed on our screens. Of course, we're talking about Bayern Munich. Is there any
way. What?
Yeah, it beats you. Yeah, I don't know. I'm directionally challenged myself. But is there anything coming down the pipeline as part of the red and gold partnership? And considering the partnership with Bayern and clearly our love for former Tottenham players, when's LAFC signing Harry Kane?
I would love to say tomorrow. The problem with Harry, high-class problem, is he just keeps scoring goals. So I don't know that they're going to be ready to part company with Harry Kane anytime soon. But the red and gold partnership is something that, it would have been great if we could have signed the paperwork and automatically things would just start happening in a very visible way, where players were moving and, it was clear to everyone exactly what was happening. But, it has taken a bit of time. The network that we've put together was a concept, and it took time to get those pieces in place, whether it's Racing in Montevideo in Uruguay, or it's an affiliation with Jeju in Korea, or, ownership of clubs like Grasshopper and FC Wacker, which started in the 5th division and is on its way to being promoted to the 2nd division. And hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll end up in the Austrian Bundesliga 1st division. And so you see some things, you see players starting to move. I mean, it's a perfect discussion on the night after Chenier put 2 balls in the back of the net, was man of the match, and carried us to victory, right? He first went to Grasshopper.
Yeah.
And had a run there. And for a variety of reasons, it was time for him to come back to MLS. And he's been a great contributor to LAFC since he showed up here. And that's an example of something that doesn't happen if there isn't Grasshopper for him to go from Montreal to Europe. So, there's some movements like that. I think we're going to start to see some of the younger LAFC2 folks, people coming up through the academy, perhaps going to Wacker Innsbruck. So it's kind of a slow boil, but you're really starting to see it now that so many of the pieces are in place, and we can actually point to something and say, look, this is actually a network. And look, our owner, Ruben Gongalingam, owns QPR. QPR is affiliated. There's been some movement there with players. So I think we will start to see more and more. And maybe, just maybe, one day Harry Kane will do what Sonny did. And he will text Ugo, and he'll text Gareth, and he'll text Sonny and say, hey, should I do this?
All right. Well, you heard it here first. Defenders of the Bank, breaking news. So 5-6 years down the road, we're going to clip this and play it later. Don't worry.
Receipts.
I think Harry Kane strikes me as a bit of a Jaromir Jagr. Jagr could barely skate, but he was still putting the puck in the back of the net. So you never know.
I don't know
that this year.
Well, and I don't know that you know this about me, Larry, but that's my favorite hockey player of all time.
Oh, well,
huge Jagr guy. So that's awesome. Look, I'm also born and raised Angelino. So this next question, it's our last real big one, is near and dear to my heart. Look, you've been involved in the behind the scenes planning for two of the biggest events in LA's history, the 26 World Cup that's obviously coming down the pipe in just a couple of months, and the 28 LA Olympics. Is there something that you're looking forward to most about either or both of these incredible events that you've been able to really be a part of behind the scenes?
Of course. And just to put it in context for the millions and millions of listeners, we signed up to be a venue in the 2028 Olympics before we had a venue, right? We had control. We had taken control of the sports arena site. The sports arena had previously been an Olympic venue. So in terms of, oh my God, how long has this been going on? Oh my God, it's been going on forever. And then, the North American bid to host the World Cup was, the good news and the bad news. The bad news was 22 was going to Qatar, but consolation prize 26 was going to come to North America. And, we were successful on 2026. In 2018, we hosted an event with Kathy Schlossman and LA Sports and Entertainment, which is front and center on the host committee in 2018 with Walker Zimmerman, former central defender for LAFC, because at the time he was a U.S. men's national team player, and Bob Bradley, former U.S. men's national team coach. So again, this has been going on, roughly forever as a part of my life and the club's life. And so for me, what is most exciting, also frightening, because I think the clock is now in and around 100 days, less than 100 days. So for the longest time with both of these major events, it's been kind of I don't have to think about that today. That's not even a next year thing. Forget about tomorrow, next week, next month. It's not even next year. So I think for me, the most exciting prospect is how these things are actually going to come to life. And, as global football fans, you guys know that it's not just going to the matches. It's the it's the event around the matches and the party and people from all over the world descending upon the City of Angels to be a part of the big event, whether they're going to a match or not. And the same thing for the Olympics. So I'm just excited to see these things play off, you know, because normally, speaking of Iron Maiden, right? You book Iron Maiden in January and they're coming, you know, in the same calendar year, and there's a much more rapid payoff. This has been years and years in the making. So seeing it actually come together and play off is going to be spectacular because it's just been out there as a concept. Oh yeah, there's that. So, you know, I can't wait for June 12th and the U.S. men's national team, you know, to kick it off here in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, the world is looking forward to this one. It's kind of crazy to think, too. People walked through Exposition Park in 1932 and in 1984 for these two.
Right.
And now they're going to be coming the same way again in 2028. Look, a couple of fun ones to end on here.
Yeah.
At least one fun one for me. Look, it's LA. So here's the obligatory Hollywood question, right? If they look back on LAFC and they're making the 10-year story of LAFC, okay, who would play Larry Freedman and who would play John Thorrington in this biopic now?
You know, in this, I'm going to give you the wrong answer and then I'll give you an answer. So way back when I had a head full of black hair and a black beard, every now and then people would say, hey, you kind of look like Serpico, which was an Al Pacino movie.
Right.
But somehow Al still has his hair. So I'll go with the great Stanley Tucci.
Love it.
And if you haven't seen Stanley Tucci in the Beethoven movie about the Saint Bernard, you should probably go back and watch that one because that's when nobody knew who he was and he played one of the bad guys.
Yeah.
So I'll go with Stanley Tucci for me. And for John, who is a bit younger, maybe Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Okay.
Or I was thinking Keanu Reeves, but I think Keanu Reeves might be a little old for the part. So I'm going to go Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who, again, go back and watch him as a kid on Third Rock from the Sun. Right. Unbelievable.
That's awesome. I love it.
All right, now I got one final one too. Not as much fun as Scarf. One maybe a little more deeply introspective, should we say?
Yeah,
now,
sure.
Looking back on everything you've accomplished, sports, law, family, everything else, what would an 8-year-old Larry Freedman say if you told him about everything you've accomplished so far?
Oh, man. I think the 8-year-old Larry Freedman would say, you know, get the F out of here. You have to be kidding me. There's no way. There's no way. Because even for me, I think if you roll the clock back, I never thought I would work in sports, you know, and then I was doing the minor league baseball thing with Goober for a good long while. And we did some great things. We built some great businesses, some great communities. But it was, you know, off Broadway, right? You know, we were in Dayton, Ohio. We were in Erie, Pennsylvania, Frisco, Texas, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. You know, maybe that's off Broadway because, you know, it's a bigger city. And so the notion that I would be involved in a project like LAFC and BMO Stadium, not in any city, but in the city of Los Angeles, which, you know, is it the greatest city on earth? We're all entitled to our opinions. We all have our bias. But the one thing that holds true no matter what is it's in the conversation. So in this incredible city where you have all of these things, the entertainment industry, beaches, hills, mountains to hike in, unbelievable weather, all of these award shows, Grammys, Oscars, Emmys, Golden Globes, theme parks, two of everything in major league level sports, two top tier collegiate athletic programs, and that somehow, little old us, we would start this project, which basically was a piece of paper that said, congratulations, you spent a record amount of money on expansion rights. Don't forget that the first try at the second club in Los Angeles failed. Good luck, kids. That 8-year-old me would look at, where this club, where this organization, where this community is now. It's a mind blower. It's a no effing way. And like truly blessed to have been given the opportunity to be a part of it at the beginning and to somehow hang around as long as I have to see, the fruits of everyone's labor and everyone's passion, everyone's blood, sweat, and tears. It's been incredible, truly incredible.
I'm sure there's plenty of 8-year-olds in the building that to them LAFC is the world. And obviously, thank you and the ownership group that created this entire platform. Obviously, for JR and I we have something to wrap our minds around. For me, being an out-of-towner, LAFC truly is my life, my friendship, my social base, heck, my career now all stems off of the love of this club. So, I just want to personally thank you for everything. And obviously the friendship we've had across the years. You've been on here, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. I've kind of lost count of it, but thank you for making this appearance. And thank you for making episode 400 for us that much more special with your insight.
Well, let me take the opportunity to thank you two for the contributions you have made. 400 episodes is not a layup. And I know from my brief stint with Jordan Harvey as a podcaster that, this is, you don't just turn on the camera and the microphone and go. There's a lot of work that goes into preparation, and that shows through in the quality of what you guys deliver. I am a religious listener, and it's a beautiful thing. And again, when you guys ask me, like, how did this compare? How does the reality compare to the dream? Like, nobody thought that people would be as passionate as you and others are in the LAFC pod fam, that you guys would put in the effort and choose to, not do all the other things you could do in your life, but put in the time and effort and the passion and have the love for it that you do, that gets you to a point where, holy crap, 400 episodes. Like, that's a lot, man. And again, everyone footnote, this doesn't include, the count doesn't include one more sleep. And there's one more sleep before every game we play. And, we don't just play 17 regular season games. We've been very fortunate. So thank you guys for all of that. And back at you on the friendship. It's one of these crazy things where you never know, but it's a beautiful thing when I'm wandering around either at the tailgate or heading up to Founders Club to find, some guests or Thornton's families up there. And I always see you guys. I think you must own that table by now because nobody else is ever there. Yeah. So a long-winded thank you very much for all of the above, the passion, the love, and the friendship. And, here's to 400 more.
Thank you so much, Larry. That means the world. That's incredible. Philly?
I think that's the perfect way to close it out. Just like that.
No, I agree. Again, this has been LAFC co-president and friend of the pod, Larry Freedman, joining us on episode 400. Once again, Larry, thank you so much.
Oh, you are welcome. Thank you.
There we are. Here we are. Hi.
All right, we beat St. Louis yesterday. Everybody enjoy your weekend.
No, it was amazing to have Larry sit down with us. Again, that was a pre-recorded interview. We're back now live for all of you watching us on YouTube or however it is that you access our content. Philly just booped your nose, I think is what happened there. And yeah, look, again, a huge thank you to everybody at LAFC PR, to Danny, to Nicole, and definitely to Logan, who helped out this morning with all of that. We thank you guys so much. At Philly, Empire's up 1-0, which I don't know if you
Don't tell me. It's on YouTube. I can watch it. Don't tell me.
All right. So I'm not supposed to tell him now. All right, cool. All right. Well, either way, look, Philly is absolutely right, though. We did, by the way, beat St. Louis 2-0. We are going to talk about that real quick here before we end episode 400. And of course, first and foremost, on the minds of everybody, including Mark Dos Santos at his press conference last night, was the memory of one Ilana Leuven, who unfortunately, again, passed away of brain cancer at age 28 years old, the wife of 29-year-old captain of St. Louis City SC, Edward Leuven. Just an awful, awful set of circumstances there. LAFC doing their part, which was wonderful, with the moment of silence before the match, and then everybody wearing the armbands in her memory. And it was something that Mark Dos Santos, instead of answering questions about the match, actually read a prepared statement that he wrote himself several days before in anticipation of that press conference. So it was definitely a tough start to the evening. And I don't know how on St. Louis City those 11 guys then can go out there and prepare to play 90 minutes of hard-nosed football the way that they did, with all of that going on in their minds. But again, we just wanted to take a quick minute here to say once again that our thoughts, our prayers go to the Leuven family and all the St. Louis City family that was clearly hurting before that match.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we talked about it on One More Sleep. I mean, it's gut-wrenching, but I mean, a lot of the clubs around MLS have obviously rallied around St. Louis City SC. And while we are rivals on the field, certainly not the case off the field. When a tragedy like this strikes anybody, I mean, you want to come together as a community and try to. I mean, I don't know how much one can do in that kind of a situation other than just, pay your respects, heart, thoughts, and prayers. And, shout out to the Leuven family. He obviously hasn't played this season, and he's been, on and off these past couple of years because he's been dealing with this. But since we are swearing a little bit on the show, fuck cancer, and I'll end it at that.
Yeah, today we've got to put the explicit tag on our pod for this one. There have been a couple of swears, and we do apologize for anybody who's listening live and has to now explain.
They hear worse on TikTok and YouTube and music. Come on, we swear once in a while. What's the? You can look up the word in Webster's dictionary. I mean, come on.
You know why I don't swear on this podcast, so that's about it.
And that's fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, on a day where Hani Mukhtar scored MLS's 25,000th goal, Matty Bogusz scores a 105th minute game winner down in Houston, and Dejan Jakovic helps sink Carson in Carson. LAFC. What did I say? Jakovic?
Jakovic, who played for LAFC. Yes, that's how defenders, if y'all remember Dejan Jakovic, y'all are for real. If you could actually tell me in the chat really quickly what number he wore, even better. But yeah, Jovic sticking it to his old team. Oh, how poetic it is.
I love it. Dejan Jakovic. I haven't thought about him in a minute. He's still playing somewhere too, by the way, I read not too long ago.
Like Forge FC or something like that?
Yeah, no, maybe actually. That might be right.
Here, you keep talking, I'll look it up.
Sounds good.
Well, I was thinking of.
LAFC made a little history of its own. We'll bury the lead, obviously, that LAFC is now 4-0.
The Serbian White Eagles.
The Serbian White Eagles. That's amazing. I love that. All right. So LAFC making a little history of their own, 4-0 to begin the regular season, obviously for the first time. And by the way, have done so with 4 straight clean sheets by Hugo Lloris, who, again, as you heard Larry Freedman talk about, has been an absolute revelation this season. looks great, playing great, doing all the things that he needs to. This was not a very good St. Louis City team coming in, although I think Philly, it's fair to say, they played themselves very well in this match, although there were times where it looked like they should have scored goals, and there were times where we looked awful, gave the ball to them, and they decided, nah, you can have it right back, and they looked awful and gave the ball right back to us. It was just one of those weird games. This is a club, Philly, that's never beaten us, and fortunately for us, that record holds true.
Yeah, never beaten us. This is what the seventh time since we've played them. We've outscored them 11-2. The most success they had against us was on April of 2025 at BMO, oddly enough, where we drew 2-2. But other than that, it's been kind of cattywampus in terms of their ability to attack us. But playing for the likes of Leuven is a good enough reason to go out there and play your best. Now, while they aren't a good team at scoring goals, they really haven't conceded that many. So defensively, they are a lot better than offense. And it's not even just the conceding goals. They don't really allow a lot of shots on them. So LAFC did a pretty good job breaking them up. But to your point, we made them look good. They made us look good. A little back and forth. We made each other look crap. You play down to the level of your opponent. You play up to the level of your opponent. But thankfully, the good guys won and did so in an interesting finish. It was very chaotic at the end because there were points where I think we were sweating it out. 88 minutes, couple of really good shots. McSorley, who named after my favorite and oldest New York City pub. It's the best bar to go to because you don't have to worry about choices defenders. McSorley's downtown Manhattan. It's only light or dark beer. So if you don't like beer, see ya later. But they made things interesting, and then he added a 6 minutes. Oh, boy. St. Louis didn't die. They really played till the final whistle, and so hats off to them on their efforts.
Yeah, and they did so, obviously, without Joao Klaus, as well, as he was shipped off to the Galaxy at the start of this season. He is currently, I think, tied. Currently tied for the MLS Golden Boot lead, I think, with 4, at least going into this last match. So it was kind of weird. Obviously, we knew why we weren't seeing Edward Leuven and then Joao Klaus not being there. Those are two of the guys that have really been mainstays at the club. For LAFC, we knew about the 5 that would be out, and we talked about the 5. It's Aaron Long, Igor Jesus, Jacob Schaffelberg, Jeremy Abobasi, and Lorenzo Della Valle. But unfortunately, as we knew, there would be a 6th in Stefan Eustachio, who would be out for this one with a leg issue. Hoping maybe he's just out and might miraculously he'll be ready for the match on Tuesday. But I don't know.
They said they're hopeful that he'll be ready for Alajuelense.
That's what they said. They got a 35-year-old head coach, which is younger than both Philly and I by a bunch.
Silence.
He was a former assistant manager under Wilfred Nancy at the Crew, under Greg Vanny at the Galaxy. He did manage Los Gros for a season in 2022. Also worked under Mikey Veras for the USA U20s. That would be Johan Dame. I'll get into the lineup real quick for St. Louis City, and then Philly will take us through the lineup, and then we'll talk about a couple of the moments in the match that we thought obviously were key. Other than, I think Philly has a new Canadian glory machine that he's got to start talking about on this one. St. Louis City comes out in a 4-3-3 with Roman Berkey in the back of the net, and he's getting a little bit older, not moving as well as he used to, is Roman Berkey. Daniel Edelman, who St. Louis City went and got from New York Red Bulls. He's only 22 and a really, really good young defender. Jaziel Orozco, Dante Polvara, who is also new to St. Louis City, and Timo Baumgartel. In the midfield, Marcel, the model Hartel, Chris Durkin, and Cedric Toysher in the midfield and forwards. Conrad Wallum, Simon Betcher, and Rafael Santos start the game. In the 18, the players you would see coming off the bench: designated player Sebastian Cordova, Brendan McSorley that Philly talked about, that also wears Philly's number 80. Philly, you might have to get yourself a McSorley jersey there in honor of that bar in New York. Celio Pompeu Sangbenjon and Makai Joyner. And also, oh, by the way, in the 18, a player who is yet to play for them. Things didn't quite work out at Barcelona B. They definitely didn't work out at LAFC as well. One Mamadou Fall, Air Senegal, back in the building for St. Louis. And okay, we've got our first comment in the chat upset about Sonny, and we'll address that a little bit later on.
Yeah, I too will address that later on. I can't wait to actually address that later on. But to your point, St. Louis, a bit of a reset year, in particular after having not made the playoffs. They were all a surprise to us in their inaugural season in 2023, where they ended up winning the Western Conference. Out of nowhere, every pundit had predicted that they would finish in last place. But as we know with San Diego's success last year, that the MLS experts don't necessarily know everything and can't predict the future. But St. Louis City SC has not been anywhere near what they were in 2023. And on a reset year, they're already having a season to start that they'd want to reset in their own right. For LAFC, keep in mind, coming off of a couple of a game on Tuesday at home against Alajuelense, they're already on a plane traveling to Costa Rica just as we are recording this, as they're going to take on Alajuelense once again in the second leg in what's going to be a brutal game. So needless to say, we're going to have some roster rotation. And this is the first time that Marc Dos Santos has really tweaked the starting lineup. What he hasn't tweaked was the goalkeeper, who would end up getting his 16th shutout since 2025, Hugo Lloris. We'd see Ryan Raposo of Scarf's favorite university, Syracuse, and a former Vancouver Whitecap. Ryan Porteous, who's quickly becoming one of my favorite LAFC players with his hard-nosed defense. Who would have imagined like this Watford defender would do so well for us. Nkosi Tafari, who is leaps and bounds better than he was last season after having come over from FC Dallas. And Eddie Segura picking up another start, picking up some more minutes. Mathieu Choignard, formerly of Grasshopper and Club de Foot Montreal, would have the biggest impact in this game. Marky Delgado, David Martinez, Sonny, Denny Bouanga, and Nathan Ordaz. So there's something I do want to address at the very end in regards to the variations in the formations, which I will down the road. But those are your starters as far as players that would end up coming. We would see, and this is the fun part, we would see some youngsters. And it still blows my mind that Eric Dueñas, still to this day, is the youngest player to enter an LAFC game at 15 years and 362 days. But Jude Terry would make his way into this game. I know Scarf's been waxing poetic quite a bit about Jude. Ryan Hollingshead would make an appearance in the ball game. We would see the likes of Amin Boudry. Oh, my God. I can't wait to talk about him and the amount of players that bounced off of him. Timothy Tillman and Tyler Boyd round out your entrance into the LAFC lineup. And out the gates, we did the moment of silence for Leuven's, the passing of Edouard Leuven's wife. And then right out of the gates, LAFC pressing high. And one of the tactics we talked about on One More Sleep is for them to go out and break that press as early as possible. And sure enough, they did. The only thing that didn't happen was Denny didn't score on that attempt.
Philly, it was an XG of 0.29, which means 29% of the time. Apparently, that's a goal. I'll say for Denis Bouanga, that's probably closer to 75% of the time. We should have been up 1-0 30 seconds in. And then we do go down 1-0 for about 10 milliseconds or so. As soon as the ball went into the back of the net in the 14th minute for St. Louis, the official immediately signaled that there was a push in the box. Goal immediately disallowed. No review, no nothing, and no complaint, by the way, for St. Louis City on that one. In the first half, Philly, it was pretty back and forth, ho-hum, no action, not much going on until the 41st minute. But do you have something before the 41st minute?
No. Okay, I was about to say, the 41st minute is where we all held our breaths for a moment.
I mean, for all of you out there that are upset, so am I. That was the MLS goal of the week that we had taken away from us by Wally Post. Are you kidding? We got a circle button spin move from Nathan Ordaz and then a fire on target. That would have been a pretty sweet goal, and one for Nathan Sizzle Reel for sure. But Philly, a little unlucky there as LAFC hitting the post for the first time in the match.
PFW Woodwork, that was the old moniker we gave to the post a couple of years ago, would have his say, not Roman Berkey, but let's also acknowledge the amazing header pass from Ryan Raposo in the box to connect with young Nate the Great. He flipped his defender around, like you said, circle button on your PlayStation or Xbox controller. Just hit the woodwork. Just hit the woodwork in a game that is a matter of inches. And if you've never stood in front of a professional goal. Those things are massive. So when you hit the woodwork, it's the most frustrating thing possible. It really, really is. That was our biggest and best opportunity at the time. I mean, as far as your first half stats are concerned, I really was under the impression that LAFC would just completely control possession throughout the first 45. That wasn't the case. It was more or less mixed, depending on which ranking, which system you want to utilize. 48-52, roughly right around then. It'd be St. Louis, though, that would have more of the shots in the first half, which was quite interesting. But we waxed philosophically in this sense, because at the end of the day, going from turf to twine is really what matters. But as rough as the game kind of looked, St. Louis had, I would say, with the exception of Nate's shot, the better of us.
Yeah, no, I think St. Louis City played very, very well. And I think it's a continual reminder, right, Philly, that we get every club's best shot every time out. These teams, these players step it up when they step onto the pitch at BMO Stadium. A couple players stepping off the pitch at halftime, David Martinez and Mark Delgado. Coming off for Timothy Tillman and Tyler Boyd. I really wanted to let Philly take the substitution on that one just in case he messes up, but we'll give him another day to fight the Tyler Boyd mispronunciation. And Philly, honestly, again, first 15, 20 minutes of the second half, we're waiting, we're looking. St. Louis still playing pretty well, playing out on the front foot. I didn't really like a lot of what we saw for the first 20, 25 minutes of that half.
No, and keep in mind, we also went right to the bench to start the half. I mean, Tyler Boyd, like you said, Mark comes in for Martinez. See, I tried to give you a chance there. But you bring in the likes for St. Louis. They brought in Cordova, which obviously had an impact on this. And the only player who scored this season for St. Louis City, Marcel Hartel, really started getting going. Him and Sergio activated themselves. And same with Simon Betcher, by the way. But where we'd really start to see a difference in terms of LAFC's attacking is when Amin Boudry came in for Sonny. And I know that was much to the disgust of a lot of people in the 71st minute, because the minute he came off, people were starting to head to the gates, which I'll address that one too. I mean, it's one of those where's the fire situations. It's a clear indication as to who people are in the building for. And I'll say we did sell out the building before this signing. But anyway, I will address that a little later on. But Boudry, I mean, unbelievable the way he made a run. He had a couple of players bouncing off of him like a kid bouncing off in an inflatable castle. Edelman and Durkin on his way to making an attempt. He saved all the best for him shoulder tackling the defense out of his way, because when he fired the shot at Roman Berkey, there really wasn't too much behind that. But Boudry has shown some flashes of what potentially could be to come. He's been exciting in the moments that we've gotten to see him. He's created a nice little highlight reel just this week alone.
Yeah, he got a little froggy, though. I think that's one where he wants to lay it off to Denis, who's coming down that side, although he was kind of feeling himself after you mentioned it. He's not a big kid, but he's bigger than you think, and he stays up when he plays, which I think is really important. He doesn't go down. You mentioned, unfortunately, Eric Duenas. That was a player who you just mentioned. I remember just getting pounded all over the pitch, left and right, unfortunately. And look, Boudry comes on. I think it's no shock that the offense just started to flow a little bit better, not because of something that Sonny wasn't doing. In fact, I'll say this. Over the course of the 71 minutes that Son Heung-min was on the pitch, I felt like this was the closest he looked to last year's Sonny in terms of how he was chasing the ball a little bit more. He was out on the front foot, seemed a little bit more confident overall. This was a Sonny match that I think he can look back on and go, okay, I'm starting to put the pieces together for this year, whether it's because of injury or because he didn't get a full preseason or because of a couple of other different factors. Honestly, I thought this was the best that Sonny had looked so far. However, Sonny doesn't play for Team Canada in this one. Matthew Chouanier does. And Philly, it was almost two similar plays, two carbon copy plays, just in different parts of the goal. And I think the question that I asked in the press conference too was what it takes to have the fearlessness to shoot in that way that Matthew Chouanier does. He said he's been working on it in training, Philly, and clearly it's something that a lot of players from LAFC have been working on, right? We've seen Mark Delgado, Stefan Eustachio, and Kosi Tafari A couple of other players now have been scoring these goals from outside the box. Actually, Kosi's was inside the box. Who am I thinking of that scored that last goal? Either way, an incredible night for Matty Choinière.
So, I mean, to your point, actually, he did place the ball in the same similar situation in that bottom left corner. But the carbon copy was just off of pressure. Defensive pressure made a diamond out of a coal moment for LAFC. Choinière did not have a lot to his attempt, but he absolutely outstretched Roman Berkey on both of his goals. But both of them do occur off LAFC playing some pretty good defense. And a great scenario when you have somebody else contribute to the offense. I mean, Mathieu Choinière, I think he had an accolade. Obviously, it's his brace, but manages to have a multi-goal scoring game for two teams in MLS, including obviously LAFC and for Club de Foot, once known as the Montreal Impact. And actually, he's the first LAFC player to score multiple goals in a league game this season and is the second multi-goal game of his MLS career. The last time he did this was back on August the 20th, 2003 against Toronto FC. So Mathieu Choinière firmly implanting his signature in his name in the game. Max Bretos called him a devil on the broadcast. If you throw another 6 on the back of his jersey, then yes, as per Iron Maiden, that is the number of the beast, but he was an absolute devil as far as Roman Berkey is concerned.
No, he absolutely was. 73rd minute, a .06 XG. That's 6% of the time that's a goal. And he went ahead and topped it in the 81st minute with a .03 XG goal. That's 3% of the time. Unbelievable. 2 great shots. It was David Martinez who scored the other goal from outside the box that I was trying to think of. The last 5 goals for LAFC have all come from outside the box. Denis hits the post in the 85th minute on that ball that just screamed across the mouth of goal and caught a little bit of that post. Really frustrating for Denis on that one. He definitely should have had at least a brace on the night. And then Philly, he gets a little bit of a break. Jude Terry comes on in the 86th minute for Denis Bouanga. And again, at 17 years and 100 some odd days, only Eric Duenas and Christian Torres, 2 of the original homegrowns, are younger. And then Ryan Hollingshead comes on for Ryan Raposo for the final sub. And Philly, I've just had a knock at the door, so I'm going to let you take it.
He's going to, while Scarf welcomes his friendly neighborhood solicitor, I do want to address the following. LAFC is now 4-0-0 in MLS play. 12 points. The only club to open this the season with 4 consecutive wins this far. And obviously the first time in LAFC history that the team has come through with 4 consecutive wins. For Mark Dos Santos, he made a little bit of history himself with LAFC's 2-0 win. LAFC becomes the first club in MLS history to record a shutout victory in each of its 4 games. So there have been people that have been a little harsh on Mark. And so the patience, and I'm not sure what patience there needs to be. When we're winning, things are supposed to be good. Apparently not the case. I'll wait until Scarf shows up till we could start doing this. But beating St. Louis, we are now 5-0-2 against them all time, and we've outscored them 13-2 in all those contests. At BMO, 3-0-1. So the city of Los Angeles has been a house of horrors for the boys wearing the Purina Dog Chow logo on their kit. The shutouts, once again, the only team to do so to open up a season, which is pretty darn cool. 4th team in MLS history to do so. And listen, we have not allowed a goal in the last 363 minutes of regular season play. That's the 2nd longest shutout streak in club history, beaten only by a 550-minute scoreless streak that was hit up in 2024. Hugo Lloris, 40th regular season win with LAFC, making 4 saves while hitting a season high as 19, while facing a season high of 19 shots. Now he's the 62nd keeper in MLS history to record 40 wins. Hugo, Eddie, Steady Eddie, and Nkosi are the only 3 LAFC players to play all 360 minutes for the club this season. And last but not least, rounding out the fun facts of the game, David Martinez made his 50th regular season appearance start. Was that Jehovah's Witness? Was that Domino's? Was that somebody asking you if you were happy with your internet service provider? What do we have here?
I was hoping it would be Girl Scout cookies or something, but no, unfortunately.
I've never seen them go door to door.
No, but no, just had to move my car for a little bit. We got the tenants up front who had to go. Philly, I know
nobody convinced you to join the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints this time.
Not this time. I know, Philly, this is something that you want to talk about, and we can kind of close on this for just a little bit. I think this might round us out. But
yeah, we've been on for a while now.
I think the Sunny fans are jumping the shark just a little bit. Philly and I are both in agreement on one thing for sure. When your team is 4-0-0 in league play and still very much alive for the more important trophy, in our opinion, of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, while not losing a game yet this season, it would be nice if some of those Sunny fans on Twitter, in the stadium, wherever else it might be, might support the club a little bit more than they are supporting their one particular player. However, look, I totally understand. Inter Miami must be going through this quite a bit with Lionel Messi, right? It's a player who is a global icon and a standard bearer, not just for their club, but for their country. All of the South Korean citizens and people who identify themselves as Korean must think the world of Son Heung-min. He has been the face of Korean football for a decade now. And I respect everybody who comes out, whether you're wearing a Tottenham Sun jersey or you're wearing a South Korea national team kit, or now many of you in the stands wearing an LAFC Sun jersey. But please remember that on the back it says Sun, but on the front there's a crest. And when you walk into BMO Stadium, part of the expectation, especially if you are wearing black and gold, is that you support the crest of that jersey far more than you support the name on the back of that jersey. That's my 2 cents, but I'm going to turn it over now to one Philly.
How dare you not recognize the people coming into the building that have Sonny's Hamburg and Bayer Leverkusen kits? I mean, come on. It isn't just Tottenham that he played for, despite having over 300 caps and over 125 goals. To your point, club, crest, bigger than player, on back. We were LAFC before. We'll be LAFC afterwards. And for those that are just coming aboard for a short period of time, we appreciate you. Don't let the door hit you on your way out when Sonny leaves. But ultimately, again, like what do you care more about? People are saying, oh, well, he's not happy. He doesn't seem to be himself. How do you know that? You talk to him? Are you texting him? The guy's a consummate professional. Take a look at the photo that the team had at the end of the game. He's all smiles. He's frustrated, not because of the team and everything around him. It's more so his performance. And he knows that he could be better. He knows that he missed a sitter. He knows that he's missed a couple of sitters. And the consummate professional that he is, still out there playing the entire time for his teammates, for his club, for everybody out there that's in the building that spent their hard-earned money to watch this guy play. He is class 1,000% through and through, and I've seen him play ever since his time in Germany, playing in the Bundesliga. I absolutely love and respect this man. Every time we've had an opportunity in a press conference to ask him a question, he's been amazing. But what hasn't been amazing is people pooping on the club and the head coach just because he's not scoring. If he misses a sitter, is that on Mark or is that on him? He'll figure it out. The team will figure it out. As long as the team wins, I'm not going to say all is forgiven, but until we start going on a losing streak with every season, there's highs and lows, ups and downs and all that other stuff, just chill. The one thing I will say for people that are following him throughout his career in England, he has a better chance at winning more trophies and silverware playing for LAFC than he ever did at Tottenham. That trophy cabinet is about as empty as my stomach right now after podcasting for the past couple of hours. He's going to kill it. He's going to continue to dominate in Major League Soccer. And this team is going to continue to ride the wave of momentum. More players are scoring, more people are involved, and he still is very active when it comes to the offense. Take a chill pill. We're all in this together. We're all Sunny fans, and we're all, more importantly, fans of LAFC. because at the end of the day, that's truly what matters. Club over player. Players come and go. True supporters are here through the thick and thin. For those of you that are that, my hat's off to you. For those that are going to be a revolving door, I don't care. I'll see you later. Thank you for your contributions to the greatness of our young club.
Yeah, and las buenas y en las malas for sure. Don't forget about that. And oh, by the way, all he has is 1 goal and 6 assists in 7 matches. So he's got as many goal contributions as we've played matches, y'all. So he's still doing plenty for us. Look, this has been fun. Getting to episode 400 has been one of the cooler things that we've been able to do here on Defenders of the Bank. And because Defenders of the Bank is here, it's afforded Philly and I so many incredible opportunities. We take every single one of them as a badge of honor, and a huge thanks for all of you out there in Defenders Nation. Of course, to the millions
and millions.
Thank you for making these first 400 episodes so incredible. And as Larry said, 400 more. Philly, what do you think? You got 400 more Defenders of the Bank episodes in you?
I mean, whether I do or I don't, I know you're going to drag me into it. But yes, of course, I enjoy doing this. And within about a month or so, I will have all systems go, because all the broadcast stuff for me starts to become lesser and lesser. So I love doing this pod. I love this community. I love this club more so than any other club that I've ever rooted for in my life, because it's given me so much more than I could have ever possibly imagined. And I thank all of you for that. I thank my broadcast partner and podcast partner, because we both call games and podcast. JR, it's been a fun route to 400, really over 500 and change, but we'll be around for quite some time. We are not a trend. As I mentioned, we were there in the beginning. We'll be there until our end. The club will go on, but we'll always be who we are, unapologetically so. Whether you like us, whether you think we've lost a step, whether there are other pods out there that are trendier than we are right now, we're still going to be here. You're still going to hear One More Sleep. We'll still be at those press conferences where you'll hear my voice or Scarf's voice, and we'll still recap these episodes come hell or high water.
And you can think, by the way, that we have lost a step and like us at the same time, because you're probably right on both fronts. Either way, on behalf of my podcast partner, Philly, this has been another fantastic episode. And you know how you like to end every single one of these. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.